capital. They took it over completely, almost completely. There's still good people like Ron Paul and one guy who wants to audit the Federal Reserve. You know, we've got to do something. We're being taken over. We're being taken over by foreign interests.
You know, we're about to talk about the third one, about how they've taken over our military. And so, I'm going to show you some of the examples of what they are doing. I'm also going to tell you about the military-industrial complex, because I'm not sure if every single American knows what the military-industrial complex is.
I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell, and to share a few final thoughts with you, my countrymen. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
And now, just so you know what the military-industrial complex is, it is a group of people that make money off of weapons. They make money off of making weapons, redistributing or distributing weapons. They can make them or design them, or they simply could resell them, or possibly they could sit there and make loads of money off of wars. And so there's a slight chance that the slight corruption in this is that the military-industrial complex would actually like making money off of wars. So I'm thinking the hippies from the 60s made sense when they said no to wars, because the only reason I think why we have so many wars is because the military-industrial complex loves making money off of wars. Because if there's no war and no military, there's no profit for you. If you're in the military-industrial complex making money off of weapons, and then all of a sudden you get peace, then you can't make money. So I believe that's one of the reasons why we have so much violence in the Middle East, is because the more violence there is, the more money that can be made off of the selling and making of weapons. The making of bombs, grenades, helicopters, weapons off of, all sorts of weapons. Weapons off the factory shelves. The thing is, that's what the military-industrial complex is all about. The military-industrial complex is a system, a group of people that make money off of war. So that's why to them, war is peace. And slavery is freedom. And ignorance is strength. Because to these money masters, as long as wars keep going on, they keep making their money. Cha-ching! And so that's why they had to throw protesters in jail that are against war. Because if they were just all of a sudden let people protest against war, then that's going against the military-industrial complex, because they make money off of bloodshed. They make money off of detention centers and weapons, all sorts of stuff. If all of a sudden the war stopped and the military didn't have to do too much to protect the country, then all of a sudden their money can run short. They won't be making as much money. It'd be like trying to sell... it'd be like trying to sell a bunch of apples that aren't going to be bought all the time. They want to keep making money all the time. So as long as more people get killed, more soldiers die, and they recruit more soldiers, they'll keep making more money. In fact, each person they recruit into the army, the military-industrial complex makes money off of them. So that's the real reason why the Army wants to keep recruiting people into the military. This has nothing to do with defense. This now has something to do with the more people they get in our military, the more money they make. And that's why a lot of our Marines and people in our military, like I'm talking about the Army recruiters, that's why they really try to recruit people like a business, because it's becoming a business. They're making money off our defense. They're making money off our soldiers that work hard to defend our country, and that's what these people are all about. The military-industrial complex doesn't care about protecting your country. All they care about is making money off of both sides of every war. In fact, you can watch Endgame by Alex Jones and find this out for yourself, that they keep making money off of every war, assassinating people to start wars. In fact, in one podcast I talked about that they assassinated Martin Luther King Jr. on purpose. They planned his assassination to create a racial warfare so that these military-industrial complexes can keep making money. Cha-ching! So then when people start getting angry and start killing and attacking people over the assassination of a great activist, then this leads to more bloodshed. This leads to tensions between different people, and then it creates more bloodshed and more problems, and this means that people might try to buy from underground black market weapon makers, and this means that the military-industrial complex can keep making money, even by having wars inside our own country. This is how corrupt the military-industrial complex is. This has nothing to do with racism or differences or war. This has everything to do with corruption of the military-industrial complex, and this is all about money. This is about making money off of war. This is about turning people against one another so they want to kill one another. This is all about money being made for the military-industrial complex. No other issue matters. It's all about money. In fact, here's an example of what the military-industrial complex is about. This is an animation. Now, we're on to the fourth one. The funding of terrorism and other treasonous operations. Now, Mr. Alex Jones believes that Planned Parenthood is a part of some eugenics operation and other organizations, and he also believes that environmentalism has become a big cult. In fact, there's been another side that actually is saying that the ozone layer can actually repair itself, and that they're just making excuses to try to keep their environmental operations open. And he's also gotten some other theories that our government's been sponsoring and funding terrorism. So if the secret groups control the government, and if they're funding terrorist operations like Al-Qaeda or sponsoring terrorist attacks, then this is pretty scary. In fact, when you think about it, about 9/11, there's been some reports that there was some sort of an insurance change, and one of the things that was covering was terrorist attacks. There has been lots of evidence and speculation that 9/11 was an inside job, and that there's a possibility that our terrorists have been funded money by the United States government and the CIA. In fact, we funded a group of radicals back then. You can see that in Charlie's War. You can see that that the government's been funding these so-called terrorists and extremists to fight off the Russians. Or I'm not sure if they were extremists back then, but back then we were funding these people with guns and militants, and then they successfully